I opened my front door at 6:45 in the morning and found two animal control officers standing on my porch with tranquilizer guns. They said my dog was a dangerous attack animal. They said they were there because the HOA president was afraid for her life. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about a dog anymore. I'm David, and before I tell you how it all ended right there on that porch, you need to understand how quietly, how methodically this whole thing started. Because nothing about this exploded all at once. It crept in, it tightened slowly, and for a long time I honestly wondered if I was the problem. I moved to Pine Ridge Lake 3 months before all of this reached its breaking point. I didn't move for luxury or status or some picture-perfect lakeside dream. I moved because my doctor told me I needed quiet, real quiet, the kind that lets your brain slow down instead of pounding against the inside of your skull. 5 years earlier, I'd been in a car accident that took most of my sight. Not all of it, just enough that the world turned into a blur of light shadow and constant headaches if I pushed myself too hard. I learned how to adapt. I learned how to work from home as a freelance audio engineer. And most importantly, I learned how to trust Bailey. Bailey is my guide dog, a 70-pound golden retriever with the emotional range of a saint and the danger level of a stuffed animal. He's been with me for 4 years. He knows my routines better than I do. He knows when I'm about to lose my balance before I feel it myself. He knows when to stop, when to guide, when to wait. He's not a pet. He's my independence. The cabin at Pine Ridge Lake belonged to my grandmother. 2 bedrooms, a wraparound deck, trees thick enough to block out most of the road noise. The lake sits just far enough away that you can hear water instead of engines. It was the first place in years where my migraines eased up, and that peace lasted exactly 1 afternoon. I was still unloading boxes from the moving van when I heard sharp footsteps on the driveway. Fast, purposeful, the kind that doesn't hesitate because it expects to be listened to. I turned toward the sound, and before I could say a word, a woman announced herself. "I'm Patricia Cromwell, HOA president." She said it like a title you're supposed to stand at attention for. I could hear the click of a clipboard, the scrape of a tape measure snapping out. She was measuring the distance between my trash bins and the edge of the driveway while lecturing me about appearance standards, about how my grandmother had been granted exemptions, about how those exemptions didn't transfer automatically. Then she stopped talking. I felt it before I heard it. The silence shifted. "That dog," she said. "Is that yours?" Bailey sat beside me, harness on, calm as ever. "Yes," I said, "he's my guide dog." She sucked in a breath through her teeth. "He'll need to be registered with the HOA. I explained calmly that service animals don't require HOA registration, that they're protected under federal law, that Bailey was fully certified. She made a noise like she didn't believe a word of it. "We have strict rules about aggressive breeds," she said, "and that dog looks like it might have German Shepherd in it." I almost laughed. Almost. Because Bailey is a golden retriever. He looks like every children's movie dog that's ever existed. "He's not aggressive," I said, "and he's essential." She scribbled something down hard enough that I could hear the pen scratching. "I'll be reviewing the covenants," she muttered. "We can't have hazardous animals near the lake. Children play here." Then she walked away, her sandals snapping against the pavement like punctuation marks at the end of a threat. I told myself not to overthink it. HOAs are annoying, sure, but people like that usually calm down once they realize they can't bully you into compliance. I was wrong. The first notice came a week later. A written warning about excessive barking. Bailey doesn't bark unless he's alerting me to someone approaching. That's his job. I ignored it. The second notice claimed he was roaming without a leash. He wasn't. He was working harness on attached to me. Then came a fine for improper waste disposal. In my own yard. Each letter was polite in tone and aggressive in implication. Immediate compliance required. Further action pending. I started keeping them in a folder on my desk. At first as a joke, then as a precaution. HOA meetings became uncomfortable. Patricia would dedicate entire sections of the agenda to the canine issue. She showed photos she'd taken from her property. Grainy, zoomed-in shots of Bailey doing things like lying on the deck, carrying my mail pouch, playing fetch with the Morrison kids down the road. "This animal lunged at me yesterday," she announced, once holding up a photo that showed Bailey walking calmly beside me on the path. I barely escaped serious injury. People shifted in their seats. I heard murmurs, confusion. The Hendersons whispered behind her, clearly baffled because her story involved diving into their azalea bushes that sit 50 feet away from the path and behind a fence. I felt my stomach twist every time she spoke. I didn't like confrontation. I especially didn't like being the center of it. And I started to notice small changes. A neighbor crossing the street when they saw us. Someone clutching their purse a little tighter. Patricia took it online next. Posts in the community Facebook group. Warnings about the large dog at Lot 47. Calls for vigilance, for safety. Then the cameras went up. I noticed the faint mechanical whir first. The subtle hum that didn't belong in a quiet lakeside morning. She'd mounted multiple cameras along her property line, all angled directly at my house, at my deck, at my yard. She told the board it was for evidence. She compiled footage, edited it, added ominous music, presented weekly highlight reels of Bailey's behavior, yawning, stretching, wagging his tail at a butterfly. I tried to talk to her. I really did. I invited her for coffee. She refused, saying she wouldn't step foot on property harboring an assault dog. I suggested meeting at the community center instead. Bailey leashed, controlled, calm. She said that would be endorsing dangerous behavior. That's when the inspections started. Health inspectors, code enforcement. Each one arrived apologetic. Each one found nothing wrong. Each one left shaking their head. Every failure just made her escalate. She drafted a petition to ban hazardous dogs. The wording was vague enough to include any dog over 30 pounds. It failed. She pushed for mandatory muzzles in shared spaces. It failed. And then one morning I woke up to knocking. Animal control. The first 2 times they came, they verified Bailey's documentation, noted his temperament, and left. This 3rd time was different. Patricia had learned how to phrase her accusations, lunging, threatening children, refusing restraint. That morning, standing in my doorway, I felt something break inside me. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, heavier. After they left, apologizing again, warning her about false reports, I sat at my kitchen table with my hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold. I stared at that folder of notices, the fines, the photos, the lies, and for the first time I wondered if it would be easier to just leave. I thought about selling the cabin, about finding somewhere else, about how tired I was of explaining myself, of proving my right to exist peacefully. I asked myself if I was being stubborn, if maybe my presence really was disrupting things, if I was selfish for holding my ground. That night I almost packed. What stopped me was Bailey. He nudged my hand, sat with his head on my knee, steady, unquestioning, trusting me the way he always had. And I realized something. This wasn't about harmony. This was about control. About someone deciding that because my life didn't look like hers, it was a problem to be eliminated. So I stopped being quiet. I filed a formal complaint with the HOA board. I attached everything. Every letter, every citation, every video. I included statements from neighbors who'd watched Patricia harass me, who'd seen Bailey interact gently with their children. The acting board president, a man who'd spent most meetings half asleep, finally paid attention. An emergency meeting was scheduled. My lawyer joined remotely. Calm, precise. He laid it out clearly. Discrimination, harassment, violations of federal law. Patricia tried to justify herself, claimed she was protecting the community. When pressed for evidence, she stumbled. Hypotheticals, feelings, fears. The room went silent. The vote was swift. She was removed as HOA president effective immediately. Ordered to remove the cameras within 72 hours. Barred from filing complaints without verified evidence. But it didn't end there. The Department of Justice got involved. The fines were real, the consequences unavoidable. The last thing Patricia tried to do was run for a minor committee role months later. She got 3 votes. 3. Now when I walk Bailey down the path by the lake, the cameras are gone. The letters stopped. The silence is back. And every time I hear footsteps on gravel, I don't tense up anymore. Because this time I didn't back down. And sometimes standing your ground is the only way peace ever comes back.